All right, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is a special call meeting for the Health and Emergency Services Committee. Before we start too far, legal, do we need to read any notice or anything since this is special call? Perfect.
As long as we just notice it, the only thing where you have to read out the call, that's for the full commission, not for a committee.
Perfect. All right, then Mr. Hyde, if you'll give us the invocation, please.
Father, we thank you for this beautiful day that we've had, and we also thank you for your many unmerited blessings to us. We pray, Lord, as we conduct this business tonight, that you will give us the wisdom that we need to make the good and right decisions. We pray these things in thy name. Amen.
All right, so the only thing we have on the agenda would seek approval for is the volunteer fire allocations, which is obviously the call to move. Have a motion by Commissioner Harris, second by Commissioner Wright. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, recognition of the public. If anyone is here to speak on this matter, as we have a house full, now's the time that we'll speak. Now, I will say later, we will obviously open the floor for the suggestions of the allocations of the monies, the way the money should be spent or requested to be spent. So if anyone wants to speak outside of that, now's the time, but it does need to be an agenda-related item. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close that for the public. Report of the chairman. Here we are. I can say, first and foremost, thank you all for what you've done this afternoon. I know most of you've been in the weeds and the smoke this afternoon, but we do appreciate that in the north end of the county. It goes unwavered, I think, without saying, but we do appreciate it. Saw Holland's truck going back as I was coming down, so we do appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have is a report. Report of County Mayor. Do you have anything, Mayor?
I'll just echo your comments. Thank you all for your service.
All right, report of the fire department.
Apologize to the committee. I either left my notes and reports at home or they flew off the back of my pickup truck. Like the chairman said, it's been a heck of an afternoon. One thing that I did have that I wanted to give to the committee was a spreadsheet how we want to spend $138,000. It's basically split evenly between the departments. I believe it was $10,216 each. But I will email that to the chairman tomorrow morning.
And that was on all 11 departments, correct?
No, it's 9 departments. This is the one that we had a kind of a discussion about at the last meeting.
Correct.
And I sent you, emailed you a spreadsheet that showed how we divided that money up between the departments since that amount first showed up on the budget.
And if I may, I believe that's the volunteer prioritization capital equipment request for fiscal year 21-22.
I don't know how it is on the budget. It's $138,000, and then they took out the radio user fee.
But 91,944.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 91 something.
Okay.
Like the chairman said, most of the departments spent this afternoon, but actually it started last night in Shackle Islands District. There was a fire that was a lot harder to fight, and the departments that weren't at this one this afternoon were at that one last night. So it went about 5 or 6 hours. So the conditions are bad for open burns in the county at this point. That's all I have.
Rain's on the way, we're hoping though, so.
I don't know if it's
Don't know
going
if
to
it's
be
gonna
enough,
improve
but it's
anything,
supposed to
but it's
rain
right.
tomorrow.
Right. All right, the new business that's on the agenda is the volunteer fire allocation. So I'm gonna, as the chairman, allow finance to go over the balances that we have, and then we will go back over to the other side and see how we want to go with that. So David, take it away.
There was an additional $138,000 that's allocated each year. $46,056 of that's been allocated toward the radio system through EMA, which leaves a balance of $91,944. There was a one-time appropriation by transfers from the debt service fund for $1,280,834. $518,623 has been allocated to the Highland Volunteer Fire Department for a fire truck, which leaves you a balance of $762,211. So the two balances they have left tonight is the $91,944 and the $762,211 from the one-time funds.
And then going back, Chief, you said that the 91, what was that number again, 91,944?
Yes, sir.
Was going to be divided among the 9 remaining departments, correct?
Yes.
So that brings us to the 762,
762,211.
211. That's still remaining. Now, Finance, if I'm correct, that is a one-time allocation that probably would not be hanging our hats on it coming back again, correct?
They actually had to transfer pennies from the debt service fund for 1 year to make up that amount in the general fund.
Okay. Now, I know there's discussion in the last committee meeting that we had that there was, Oak Grove was asking for a new fire hall in Oak Grove. My understanding is that.
Not a new fire hall, an addition.
Correct, an addition to.
The one that is there.
Correct. That it's 500 and.
$406,096. 900 this second. The current estimate from the county engineer is $406,696.
So, and since our last committee meeting to now, the Resource Authority has met. And it's my understanding Resource Authority has agreed to quitclaim deed that parcel that's beside of their fire hall now to the county. So, legal, my question is, where do we go from here? Because I know there was conversation in the Resource Authority Board that TDEC was going to have to do some site surveys, and there would be some surveys made from the county.
By the far, the easiest thing to do is just to put it on the property we already own. Because otherwise, you have to get into a conversation with the Resource Authority, who then has to work with TDEC and make sure they're far enough away from any site that maybe was a landfill at one point or anything like that.
Right.
And we have to make a deal with them for either purchasing the property or a lease, because they are their own entity. So there's no guarantee they would just hand it over to the county. So we have to negotiate a purchase price or lease terms with them. If we were to put it on there, by far the easiest and cheapest way to do it is figure out what land we already own and work it out to put it there.
It's my understanding that the Resource Authority is agreeing to quitclaim it to us. Is that right, County Mayor?
We will need to get a survey done on it, but they will give us that portion of the property. They'll deed it over to Sumner County. But he is correct, we're gonna have to have an environmental done on it before we build, which isn't a big deal, but it's a hurdle.
I have not been involved in any discussions with the Resource Authority.
Yeah. And then if that should happen, and I'm just asking questions, if that should happen, TDEC comes out and says it's a landfill here, you can't do anything with it, disturbance or whatever.
And we would have to move to Plan B as far as the site. You know, at that point, there's just nothing we could do.
So I guess forms of planning, what would be most advantageous for us as a board
If you're
and the county?
wanting to do it quickly, the
I
land
want to do it
that,
efficiently.
well, quickly and efficiently would be just the land we already own, just because with going to the resource authority, you have to wait for the state to get out there to determine if you can even use it. And the answer is no, that might delay starting for several months, which prices can go up, those sorts of things. And once we get the go-ahead from TDEC, then we need to work out a quick claim with the resource authority's attorney and figure out what, after getting surveys done, what exactly are they going to, it's the mayor to give us, and that's very generous of them for doing that. And then we could, once we have that property, we could start building on it because it would be our property. But it would be a longer process to get that, just to go through the state, get it surveyed. So I know it's not the quickest thing to do in the world to get a surveyor right now.
Right. So I guess our question is, they're saying at this point that they don't have enough clearance to go around the existing building to add to it. So that's why the property restrictions is there, that we don't have enough clearance for traffic flow and stuff to go around that existing building. So where does that leave us as a committee? And I'm not trying to steer anybody. I'm just asking the questions.
If the land we have doesn't work for the project, then we would need to try to get this land from the resource authority. Otherwise, we can't do the project. There's no point of us building a building to house a fire engine that we can't get a fire engine around to get it there.
Mayor, are we on any kind of a crunch? I guess Mayor or finance, time-wise?
Only supply chain crunches. I mean, price goes up every day.
Right.
So, given the fact that we can't build on that land, if y'all want to go forward with this project, I would suggest doing the environmental study first to see if we can do it. That'll be the most economical. And then at that point, we can work out the survey and carve out a piece of land. Resource Authority's okay with that. And that won't be a real big deal other than the time frame of getting a surveyor.
So then my question, I guess, is who pays for environmental? Because that's gonna, in my opinion, and guys, that we've got a body here, but my opinion is that would probably need to come out of this one-time funding. So that's gonna start chewing down their balance that's remaining for the department.
I think it might be pushing your luck to ask that from the resource authority if they're giving us the land versus trying to sell it to us.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. There's probably something this body needs to look at presenting the budget, that's gonna be another price tag if that's the route that we choose to go. Yes, sir. Commissioner Wright.
Wayne, will you address some of the issues as
Yeah,
far as?
We can manage if we put the building on the existing property. It's not the most advantageous for getting the trucks in and out. It takes up parking space that we don't have now. Because one is volunteers, we've got to go to the station and then we got to get the trucks out. We've got an EMS station there as well. It's in part of the current building. But I and some builders had looked at behind the station, and it's possible to put it there. It's going to be cramped for getting the trucks in and out. We've got to be careful, but it is a possibility. The most advantageous would be to have it on the side. In my discussions over the last several months with the Resource Authority and the property we're talking about is not where the landfill was at. It was the buffer area well away from the actual landfill. And basically their words, and the committee members of the Resource Authority, when they voted to quit claim the deed to the county, was let's just be sure before we go back to the state and verify that it's not outside of the environmental plan for that landfill. So, because I'm sure somewhere in there, my knowledge of environmental plans is that there is an environmental plan that tells exactly what parts of that property have certain restrictions on. Now, haven't been seen that plan or anything, so I'm not sure, but just looking at where the landfill was and the pictures of it, in the $406,000, there's money allocated for geotechnical report testing services. That the county engineers put that budget item in there. Because he knew that that was gonna have to happen. So that is part of that $406,000. Let's see, what was the other questions?
Was the survey included in the price of what you got?
Yes.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to add survey money.
You would not have to add survey money. It's in there.
Okay.
It's a $10,000 cost item.
Okay.
And I don't see Marshall, but he had put it in there because he knew that had to happen.
That includes soil samples, that would be part of the geotech, correct?
Yes. So, I guess back, we can put it behind the building. It would make things difficult for us getting trucks out and in, especially out, but it's possible if that's the only thing we can do. But putting it on the side over there, it gives us some more parking spots, access in and out, and easier access to get the trucks in and back into the station. Because where the building would have to be on the current property is right behind the current building. And of course, we got the current building there that the fire department EMS has vehicles in, and then we have the communication tower behind that as well. Put it between those two, but it makes it very cramped to get the vehicles in and out.
When I was up there, I went up and looked at your building,
Yes, ma'am.
And I looked at the back and where the tower, there looked like a little building back there, and then you had those two trucks. It was tight as a tick back there. I mean, there's not a whole lot of room. And for me, I looked at your big trucks and then your ambulance, and I mean, I know these guys are good drivers, but if you go around that building, you know, to get out in a fire if you're in an emergency, I would think you'd clip off something. I don't know, but it just looked too tight to me.
It's not the best, but we could, if it got pushed into that there was just no way we was gonna get the build on the property next to it, it would be functional. And it would get our two trucks that we have now in an environmentally controlled building so that they're available year-round.
Would you still be able to have your training area in the new park?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because that place upstairs, but
The building will be the same.
The building will be the same.
okay.
Mr. Hyde, Chairman
Do you have any place in the community that you could park these trucks temporarily if we took the longer and better route of trying to secure the property to put the building on it?
The two trucks we have, the brush truck, yes, we've got a place we can park it temporarily. Because right now, the brush truck we have that you saw sitting out there, hopefully within the next 10 to 15 days, it won't be our primary brush truck. We have a brand new brush truck that was funded, some county money, department money, and a FEMA or Assistance Firefighters grant. We are in the process, hopefully this week, of ordering another tanker, or a new tanker. The old one will go away, but there'll be a $375,000 vehicle that, again, the promise for getting it is next November of '23. And our goal is definitely have a building so we can get that piece of equipment inside, as well as the new brush truck. The new brush truck, we can get into, there's some places around the district that we can put it inside until we get the building built.
So long-term, if that's the better option for the community to have that building on the property of the Resource Authority, we have until next November to work on this. I think we could, within that length of time, we could probably
I make a
do
motion
that.
to have T-Deck, the survey done, and get this ball rolling. For the property there on the Resource Authority. Folks, this.
Second.
Yeah. My school is about, what, 3 miles from y'all?
Yes.
We had a school shooting in St. Louis today. I don't know if y'all heard about it. If the crap hits the fan at North Sumner Elementary, and this is nothing against EMS or anybody else, these guys, and I know the rest of y'all are coming to get out of your way, but I'm gonna be the same way with y'all, if y'all need me. I got blue lights for a reason. But folks, we need that building. There's no need in having new equipment sitting outside in the winter to respond to my community. I live about 2.5 miles from that fire station. My parents, my sister, I've got family all around through there. I've got people that I've known for 57 years from the day I was born. We depend on that. We depend on these people, just like y'all's community depends on y'all. We need this building. We've been wanting this building, not wanting it. There's a difference between want and need. We knew we were gonna need it, and we got this ball rolling a year ago, pretty much. And we hit a brick wall. I think I need to knock a wall down. Did I get a second? I appreciate it. I'm done.
So the motion again was to start the survey
And the TDEC.
and the TDEC study.
You gonna send it to budget for a budget allocation, or out of this funds or another fund?
Well, my question is, and I'm legal, can we do that when we don't own the land?
As long as we have an agreement with the Resource Authority and to move forward in investigating purchasing it, I don't see it. They would have to sign off on it for it being their land, but since they're agreeing to give it to us, if everything checks out, I don't see that being an issue.
Just like when you do geo on property, you're gonna purchase, it's the same thing.
I mean, I'm not I just want to make sure 6 months from now, we're not finding our same self right back here, trying to figure out which way we're supposed to go again.
I think the only way that's gonna happen is if the TDEC report comes back and says something we aren't expecting it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
I've got to clarify something there. This money was set aside in last year's budget, was it not?
That's correct. No, this
Was
year's
it?
budget.
This
This
year's
year?
budget.
Okay, the previous commission voted on this. So they've already heard all this before and voted on it, correct?
I respectfully disagree with you.
I'm
sir.
asking you a question.
And I'm
I
just
don't know.
answering.
Yeah, good.
I would say no, because I can't find record of it anywhere
Yeah.
of how it's been presented. And finance is saying that it's pieces and parts of how it's been presented to them. And that's why we're here today, is to find out. I'll just go ahead and clear the air. I think a lot of it was one station was told something, and somebody else ran to another station and told and promised something, and somebody ran to another station and told and promised something, and we've got 11 stories out there floating around, and unfortunately, it's the citizens of Sumner County that's gonna perish.
Yeah, it was election
I
time.
can tell you what's been through budget though. The only thing's been through budget's the 1,288,34, and the only thing discussed in budget was the 518,623. The building was discussed in August, but it was determined that it wanted to be allocated from the existing funds, or the new commission could decide what they wanted to do.
In committee, the statement was made, and I believe everyone agreed with it, was a new commission comes in next month, we don't want to put a new Tyler hands to a new building without them looking at it on our way out.
So let me ask you procedurally then, And I'm not trying to sway the committee to vote one way or the other. I just want to make sure that we're spending money the way we're supposed to be spending money and the way these guys think that we're supposed to be spending the money. They've already came into agreement that they're going to take $10,000 roughly per department. So that's that 91,944. Now we've got roughly 762,211 that's still remaining, of which we're wanting to take 406,696 out of the 762. Now, my question is, do we take this sheet that's been submitted and decide how to allocate the rest of that money for the remainder of the departments? Or how, because we only have so much money because it's one-time money. So how do we allocate who goes where with what?
And that's a political decision up to this body. It's based off what needs are, you know, especially something like volunteer fire where someone that got a new truck next year, it might be 20 years before they need another big ask, where another one's driving a 30-year-old truck. So there's no requirement to evenly split. You can look at need and choose for that, but that's a political decision for this body.
Just historically, they've let the fire departments decide.
And then they just bring it back
They
and then we...
brought it back to emergency services. Emergency services brought it to budget, which sent it to the commission to allocate it between the, because it's got to be revoted on by the commission to allocate to any department.
All right. So, we've got a motion and a second. Is everyone clear on what we're voting on?
We're voting on the
Survey?
survey and the
Environmental.
sorry.
Is it $10,000 total?
Yes.
That was the estimate. Yeah, the survey was to be included was the survey was 10,000 and the geotesting services I don't think was geotesting services allocated in that?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's part of that
So
10?
it's the survey and geotech for 10,000.
All right, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All abstain, just because I'm sitting in this chair. All right, so that's moving to, and where does it go from this committee?
It would go to budget to vote on the 10,000, sent to commission to allocate it to the fire department, but it's actually a county building, correct?
Yes.
So technically, I think after budget transfer, we wouldn't have to send it to commission because they're not gonna take ownership of the building. It's not really a true donation to them. But the way I'm looking at it, would you,
I'd agree with that. If anything's a donation, it's
if they actually receive it, so you're really, but we can send the commission to allocate it if they're more comfortable, it's kind of a gray area.
I think
As
better safe
convoluted
than
as this is,
better
I'd
safe
rather
than
go
sorry.
Full commission.
all the way through. That
Because
way
really, they're
everybody
getting
knows.
the free usage of the building, so.
Correct.
In the long run, it is a donation
I don't
at a
think
time.
the building itself is not the donation, especially if you're not charging rent. The use of the building
Yes.
is in at least some form, some sort of
Donation, so he's great, probably the most clear would be sitting on the full commission to vote for. And we'll advertise it in the paper like a donation.
Gotcha. Now, just because to make sure I'm on the same page, that's to start the process. Now, what do we do with this remaining balance for the building? Do we do anything contingent with it based upon the TDEC
You can do that
surveys?
at this point. That way, especially with potential for prices to go up, if everything comes back fine to go and start moving, you can have to come back and vote on actually constructing the building once we hear back on the survey and TDEC. That's up to you. So if you would like, if everything comes back and you want the county to go ahead and proceed and start working on getting the deed transferred over and getting the building up, then you would probably want to vote contingent on everything coming back with the survey and the environmental being fine to go ahead and begin the project.
How would be the cleanest way to do that?
You really gotta
Wait,
run-
let it come back first?
You've got an unlimited amount of time because whatever you don't use will stay in your reserves. The appropriations will die, but as a commission, you can reallocate it year after year. So there's really no rush
So just let that sit,
to let it all sit at this point.
and then it'll all be contingent upon the surveys coming back from the TDEC
Just really take
and
no-
the GEO.
You really have to
Then
take no
if
action.
it comes
at this
back
point
in our favor, we'll vote.
to build the building, and then after that, when you bid the building, you get the cost, and at that point, you can start allocating the funds on true dollars, and then each department would have a better idea of whatever they're wanting to bring back
Correct.
to. Because I'm sure their prices may fluctuate too at that point.
Right. So legal, I guess, my question is, in the meantime, instead of taking the county engineer's bid, would it be more advantageous for the volunteer fire department that's wanting the building to go and start creating their own bids, or is that
We're gonna need
We'll
it.
have to bid it through
Yeah,
here.
through here? Okay.
We'll have to have an engineer to do that too, so,
Is that another expense we gotta have?
yeah. And I don't know how much they estimated for engineering,
That's all been,
but do you wanna wait till environmental and then bid that next?
Absolutely. I just
Wait
wanna
till
make
environmental,
sure.
then do engineering, and then do
If,
the bid.
if we did it, if we bid it this early before, you know,
Sure.
if it took 3 months to get it, no one would give us a quote that actually, and hold
Right.
it to it for
The
3 months.
longer you want, right now, the longer you wanna bid open, the more it's costing you.
Right. So, I guess the next step is, how do we ensure that this money is there, assuming everything else is
You're
just
a
gonna sit
board,
there?
it would take your vote as a board to move that money anywhere else.
Okay,
Yeah, as long as, at the end of the year, these appropriations, if you haven't used them, will lapse, but you have the option as the board
To pull them back.
to put in next year's budget
Okay.
and/or carry it over after the end of the year.
okay. Right, so, now the next thing is do we wanna go ahead and go through the wish list, for lack of better words, that the volunteer fire department wants to use, or wants to ask for money to be allocated? I'm looking over and through.
That's the one thing, when I say
Absolutely.
board, I'm saying county commission.
Yeah.
If the one can carry over, the board can carry, but the county commission carry over.
Correct. I'm assuming that the other departments have went in and made their list of items that they want. Is that something you're wanting to present now, so we can go ahead and move forward with that part?
Are you talking about, the $1.2 billion item money? Yeah.
Yeah, the allocation of that.
Well, we're kind of waiting to see how the building's going to be paid for, because that's one of the things has always been a gray area. It's coming here, it's coming there. So it sounds like it's coming out of the $1,280,000.
Correct.
Okay. And then, Highland's truck is also coming out of that.
Correct.
So you're asking us what we're gonna do with the difference, the money that's
Remainder.
left over.
Correct.
A little over 355,000.
That's how much is left, yes.
And that's what this meeting was called for, so we could allocate those.
Gallatin Volunteer was next on the list as far as apparatus, but there's roughly just over, how much?
They're about 150,000 short.
Yeah, there's only just over $356,000 left, and that's not enough money for them to buy a new truck. We talked a little bit about a used truck, but I don't think that's a good idea, and I know Gallatin Volunteer doesn't think that that's a good idea, because that's just going to put us back in the same situation, to have an old truck to take care of. We were kind of waiting to see what was going to happen, how much money was actually going to be left. There isn't really a wish list. One of the things we probably need to find out for sure is what we can spend that money on. Because it was supposed to be capital equipment and buildings is what we were originally told.
They were told that, but these monies are actually in the general fund, so it would be up to this board to recommend and the full commission to vote on, so there's no statutory or even in the resolution limitation on that.
Okay. So we don't have a list at this point. We would need to get together and come up with a wish list, like you said, and get that to you.
Well, okay, just so, yeah, so you're understanding where we're at as this body?
Oh, yeah,
Of-
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you cleared a lot of, you answered a lot of questions.
thank you. That was my intent. All right, so, does anyone else have anything? I mean, it sounds like at this point, just to clarify where we're at, as the survey will go out, TDEC will do their duty and report back, and then we'll survey the.
Once budget approves the money.
Right,
for the survey.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
It will go, you're going to go to the full board once the board does.
right. So this will go
To the full
November full commission?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one question, what if the surveyor environmental does not come in below the 10 in total? Do you want to give any leeway for that, just in case?
Sometimes we'll add, like, you know, an extra percentage wise, just in case.
Because these are good estimates, but you don't know what you're running
They
into.
do-
You don't-
they
You
do
really
have
don't want to completely
contingency
stop,
built in
because
to
you
the
really don't want to
project.
completely stop for a whole other month over,
3,000 or 4,000.
yeah, or less. It could be a few hundred or whatever. Once you authorize us, we're kind of limited.
There's a body. I'm not opposed to it because it's coming out of that money anyway, that same.
Always used if needed.
That same. So what do we need to do to add that in there? Just let it be understood that that's.
Because it just says, proceed with the survey environmental, send it to budget for payment. That was what the actual resolution was. Commissioner Wright didn't put a dollar figure in there. That was just the
Correct.
budget read to us by the chief of Oak Grove. So we're not limited to that 10,000. So whatever budget puts in there. So I think when we get to budget, David could just
Put a larger
suggest
amount
a
in
larger
there.
number.
Sort that out.
And then whatever's left will just fall back into the allocation.
Okay. And it'll all still be in that same pot though, right? We're not crossing.
It'll go right back in.
Yeah.
That way it won't stop your project if it's a time.
Yes, sir.
We probably won't have that list together until sometime after the next Health and Emergency Services meeting, since it's
Sure.
November 1st.
And that's fine, and just,
Yeah.
I just want everybody to be on the same page that what we're doing. So if you've got something you need or want, get it to him and then let's get the ball rolling, because hopefully we won't have to go through this fiasco again. So,
Hey, Chairman, let me ask you a question. So what about, like, at Southeast Fire, our Station 1? And I mean, I don't know how the body's gonna, like, I'm gonna ask the question for blanket for everybody. We're paying for that station, Southeast Fire is monthly, like a mortgage. Is that something that could be put in this if we decide as a group that we can pay that building off? And it's not near as much money as like there. What can we buy with this money? That's my question.
So my question is on the amount they just did, kind of the same thing you just voted to give, let them divide. Well, I don't think you've actually voted to send forward yet, have you? But they're discussing dividing the 91,000 by 9 departments. In the past, they've always brought a list. They bought the list and then brought us the receipts and we verify that. But there's no requirement for you to do that, just like the 24,000, you donate that to them for cash. So just like the 24 we donate them to cash, they can use it for operations or mortgage or whatever. So if you donate it the same way as cash, there's no stipulation.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page, so.
As long as you don't put a stipulation, you don't have one. And as long as we don't fund it out of our capital projects fund, you don't have one.
Correct.
So if we submit just a spreadsheet that says Cottontown's getting this amount, Southeast is getting that amount,
Right.
and
That's what the committee and commission votes, yes, just like the 24,000. Or they can do it in the past, it's up to the committee and the commission, or they can make you bring a list, it's whatever.
Does that make sense? All bodies clear? All right,
Now's the time to ask the question, so.
yeah,
Who owns the building?
the building that we would be
Yeah,
building.
the Oak Groves, who
It would
would
be,
own that?
it would be the county that would own that building, yeah.
Would it, being as it's, and this is just a question, being as it's funded out of the fire department's funds, shouldn't the fire department own the building versus the county? Because it's just like the trucks, we're using it just as capital projects, the trucks are belonging
about the
to
property.
the departments.
Right. It's all-
And you're gonna
Would
have
the building belong to the department?
You're gonna have a building on county-owned property at that point.
Yeah.
You'll have that issue.
We'll have more tenant issue.
Well, that's why we're having to go through all this, from my understanding, is because it is on the county property, correct?
My understanding.
And we have multiple other fire departments who have county buildings that were built for them out of funds that weren't available to us.
All of them are county owned.
Well, not all of them, but a lot of them.
We own ours too.
Okay.
When they get to the top.
Yeah.
By us recognizing, there was something years ago about the fire service, volunteer fire service. By us recognizing the fire service, does that not,
And
You know where I'm going
you
with
always
this.
walk a very fine line. You do
Yeah.
not want to make it where effectively the volunteers become a county fire service, and for all kinds of reasons. For it's now something that we're dealing with any liability issues involved with them, and
Potential fire districts.
yes, it becomes
Somebody costly.
a huge headache. It's so there always is a need to make it very clear that these are nonprofit allocations. We are not not funding them like we would
well,
say
should that not
EMS.
be all the more reason that we not own that building?
I would almost say it's better giving them the building would almost be a larger.
We give them the property, it's another donation. We would probably really need to get an appraisal to determine how much money we're donating. The question is, once you get over so much money, it's a question, are you actually taxing some citizens that aren't receiving benefits, and they're gonna make the argument for taxing.
And honestly, as everything needed to run a fire department gets more and more expensive, I don't know how long the state's going to be able to hold that line of how much is a county helping the volunteers, just because when it costs $500,000 to buy a fire truck, I don't think there's many volunteers in the state that would ever replace their fire truck. I don't know if that distinction's going to last or not, but right now.
Well, I do know these folks are saving the county a lot of money by volunteering and spending a lot of their own money out of their own pocket. So I do know that.
I don't know if there is a single agency in here that I have not rubbed shoulders with plugging holes somewhere on the side of the road. We need our volunteer fire department. Some folks that live in the city go, well, it don't matter to me. You don't realize, when you go up Highway 109, turn off on South Tunnel, if you're going to visit Mr. Rogers, then you're on a county road. If you have a wreck, guess who's coming? These people. If your child or your grandchild is visiting someone and they're choking, guess who will probably be the first one there? These people.
So let's, go ahead, Mr. Howell.
I was just gonna say, Terry, you know how I feel about this issue, and I'm supportive. But even though Shannon and I both live 100% in the city of Hendersonville, I really do care that the rest of the county has a very good fire service, and I know Shannon does too, but we need to do it in such a way that we don't mess things up by what we do here. So we need to be very, very careful, as they cautioned us, on how we distribute this money so that we can keep helping and not be a hindrance.
Well, we have something on paper now that we didn't before, so we're heading in the right direction.
Sure.
We've been told this, told that. Don't feed, I live on a farm, I know what bull crap tastes like, okay?
Well, I live on the north end of the county too, and I'm
Yeah.
tired of the mushroom effect.
Well,
so.
I think some goats of yours
Yeah.
ended up at my sister's house.
Probably.
But,
Yeah, I know they did.
don't feed me a line, that's what we've been fed for a while. And I'm thankful that we're at least getting something on paper, you know.
So legal, do we need to go back and vote on that 91, 94 division?
If you're going to allocate that today, then you would need to, yes.
Okay. All right, so does anyone have a motion to allocate among the 9 departments?
I have a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Jeong, second by Yep.
John Schmidt.
Schmidt. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right,
That was just a cash donation, correct?
correct. I just lost him. I know,
It's all good.
he's here, but I don't know. All right, any other business that we need to take up legal before that major motion?
No, nothing I'm aware
Because
of.
the money will stay where it's at, right? We're moving forward with TDAT, and the survey.
Yep.
And then the money is divided among the departments. Anything else for good of the cause? Motion to adjourn. Second. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
You got